banging misses and videos. While I'm with my freak like we up in the freak shows. Hit you with this shit, make you feel it all in your toes. Hot shh, got all my people in red clothes. Telling my metaphors when I formulate my flows. If you don't know, you're messing with lyrical player pros like that.
Wanna party with me?
Hey, welcome everybody to another edition of our Tuesday night edition of Walking This Way's Impact Force podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Furman Jackson Jr. We're broadcasting, and we're doing something very different tonight. But before I go any further, I want to introduce my guest. Vincent Hutchinson, our esteemed guest, has been devoted to the study of history since the age of 12 with a degree from City College in New York and experience teaching and tutoring at Manhattan Community College. He has authored 5 history books. His noble mission is to illuminate the significance of the past and its relevancy of contemporary times. Please join us and welcome Vincent Hutchinson to the Walking This Way's Impact Force podcast. Vincent, thank you, sir, for taking time out of your productive schedule. You got the PowerPoint here tonight to bring in some great, important information. Like you mentioned, the stuff that happened in the past, how it's taking place today, and what we can learn from go forward, of course, through scripture. The book of Proverbs said, with all thy getting, let's get a good understanding. So I thank you tonight, sir, to bring us that understanding. With all that, we get a good understanding. So go ahead, introduce yourself, give us a background, who you are, what leads you up to this point, and the time that you're on right now.
Good evening. How is everybody doing? Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, giving honor to the Creator, the Most High, the one who sees all and is not seen, the one who judges all and not judged. This is whose name I'm coming in. This is an honor to be upon this platform. I found out about this platform through my Facebook page and one person talking to another about streaming and getting information out there to the people and so forth. So again, it is indeed an honor to be an acquaintance upon this particular platform. How did I get into history? First off, not to be self-centered, I'm 44 years old. And I remember seeing when in the 1980s, when I was a child, that people would be having a documentary on Channel 7. Gil Noble had a show back in those days called Like It Is. And then they would have a guest speaker or a commenter, or they would sit there and have a director's cut of a movie, and he or she would sit there and speak upon his or her own particular work. And I remember the very first time I heard Malcolm X, obviously he passed before I was born, may he rest in peace, was when I was 4 years old. And I believe it was on a station in New York called WBLS. And I was thinking, like, who is this? And I remember asking, and people were saying, he's a person from the past named Malcolm X. And I said, wow, he's powerful. And I was 4 years old at the time. And one of the things that I want to state is we never know what influence somebody may have upon another, or what influence that you may have upon someone. So always remember to be 1, an influence, that's good, and 2, teachable. So that way you can be influenced by something that is good. I didn't come here to preach so much as to sit there and just try to give some good advice in this particular case. So again, what got me into history is the fact I would ask questions and people would give me answers that I was like, okay, you're not telling me what date, what name, and so forth and so on. You're just giving me a roundabout figure. So when I began to find out a place called a library, for those who do know New York, right? I winded up, is everything okay?
You good, go ahead.
Okay, all right, cool, thanks. So I remember going to the library on Grand Army Plaza in Brooklyn, and looking at it from that particular case, I began to want to sit there and get books and study and acquire information. My mother, may she rest in peace, had a set of encyclopedias in the house, and I would sit there and read that, and from then on, just wanted to keep on studying and taking notes. And it was encouraged to me to do so. And that essentially, in a nutshell, is how that happened in that particular case. All right. And that's what I have to say about that.
And awesome. And I know you have full of the knowledge and full of the wisdom. Like I said, I know in your bio, you studied this at 12 years old. Mm-hmm. So up to into your mid 40s, we know they grew over the years to evolve. Not information you keep for yourself, for information to share with the masses, share with individuals who have the ear to hear. Scripture said, "Those who have an ear to hear, let them hear." We know everybody don't have an ear, but we know there are select individuals who do have that ear to hear. And the information you have, enlighten us, give us what people been praying for, asking for, to the point where we can take and apply it to our life. But the information you have is helpful, it's benefit, it's influence, it's impact. But in order to see the results of it, we have to apply it. So enlighten us on all this information. I'm willing to hear. I'm looking forward to hear what you have, what you learn, what you experience, to bring forth to the forefront that can help us today. So we know we're in a world now, everything's so jacked up.
Okay. You came out a little staticky and chopped up, but I was able to basically convey what you're saying to me, to my mind.
Okay.
And that is, what information do I have to want to present? In part, I would say, sir, is going to be in a PowerPoint. But what essentially, to get into it, is I personally like to study ancient history. Being raised in the scriptures, mainly the Old Testament, as it is called, I began to sit there and see things that it says that it is the truth, and taste how sweet it is, and so forth and so on. So it began to sit there and make me wonder, like, how true is this? So I began to sit there and study what some might call secular information. And I began to run into people in history called the Peleset, or the Philistines. I began to run into people called the Egyptians. I began to run into people called the Greeks. And I'm there, hold on, I've been hearing about this, being raised as a Hebrew and so forth and so on. So let me sit there and see how accurate what it is in this particular case. And there it is in that particular manner. So I began to sit there, and at the age of 12, just want to sit there and go to the library more and take more information out and get more information, research more information, trying to put a timeline together. And then at the age of 15, I read a book, a secular book, if you want to call it, called From Babylon to Timbuktu, written by
I had that book.
Right. And by reading that, I read like 50 pages of that, like within the first day of getting it. And I remember having allowance money and buying books and history, and just wanted to build a library in that case. And that's what happened with that. But again, it is indeed an honor to be on the platform. Most of the people who know me, shout out to the people who left the comments. That is to say, Soraya and Yirmiyahu. But most people who know me know that I'm mostly only on my platform and not on many say others. So is again indeed an honor to sit there and be on a particular platform in this particular case. Thank you for that in that manner. So the slides are 24 slides, and I personally welcome people to take screenshots. I can give my contact information for those who are interested. And to the people who I sent the link to, if you watch this now or later, comment, like, share, and subscribe to the platform, because it helps us to help us. All right. And I want to state that in that case. From one author to another, one YouTuber to another, I definitely want to state that to the friends and family that I sent the link out to. Please subscribe to the platform and the channel of this as well.
Oh man, awesome stuff. I just want to make sure I'm clearing your in. Can you hear me? I'm breaking in. Is static going on?
I don't hear no static no more. I heard some kind of rock and roll kind of music, but that's silent now, and I don't hear any more static or interruptions when you speak now.
All right, cool. That's what's up right there. So, Vincent, go ahead and take it away. Like I said, this is your time. You're the guest on the show. Go ahead and get this started. Like, we'd love to see the information you have to share, because I know it's some people that really want to learn.
All right, thank you. I prefer, if it's okay, to and keeping the matter focused on the presentation, that I take my camera off for the moment. Ever so often I may put it back on, but I wanted to at least introduce myself so people can see who they will care to hear to, or care to hear in that particular manner, and so forth. So let me pull up the PowerPoint, all right, in this particular case. Hopefully it'll be seen in this manner. I'm going to start from the beginning. In this case, let me know, because I see it on my screen, and I now see it on the shared screen to my knowledge in that particular manner, and so forth. The books on sale regarding Black history. Now, I want to state this is not based upon matters of being, quote, racist, nor is it racial, but it is direct. It is directed toward a particular people that is called a particular name. And we want to sit there and state how this ties into, for the lack of a better term, world history. And we hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. So thank you for that. Again, subscribe to the platform that you see this on and help us to help us. Thank you for that, family. About us. We give thanks to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We hope and pray that you all are well and will be better. This presentation is brought to you from Danite Publications, as well as you can see, Walking His Ways Impact Voice Podcast. We are dedicated to help sending truths back in the earth. The purpose of this presentation is to inform you all the books the brother has written. And my contact information is on the right-hand side of such. So my number is 908-587-4841. My email, YYISRAEL22@yahoo.com. My Instagram, Yeshaya and author, YESHIAHANAUTHOR. Website, danitepublications.com. So you can sit there and reach out to me by WhatsApp, by text, and as well as by email. All right. So just want to point that out in that particular case. I do not profess to know everything, and I am open to constructive criticism. I want to emphasize constructive, not destructive. Not, why did you think you had a right to write a book? I'm not entertaining that. Why not? What you're saying is regurgitated in history. I'm not entertaining that. When you are writing something about history, if a person wrote a book in 1930 and stated that in the year 1826 something happened, and then somebody write a book in 1984 and state in 1826 something happened, he or she is not regurgitating. When you're dealing with matters of history and you want to sit there and get to a focal point, that is not regurgitation. That is presenting a case. For those into the scriptures commonly known as the Bible, the same genealogy you see in Genesis chapter 10 is the same genealogy you see in 1 Chronicles chapter 1. It's not regurgitated. It is getting to a particular point for a particular reason. So these are things we care to bring out for edification purposes. Thank you for that, family. All right. Product overview. Now, what you see there is the logo. That is the Danite Publications, the serpent, which is the symbol of Dan from Genesis 49 in the Bible, and the lion, which is the symbol of Dan in Deuteronomy 33. So you might see me in this presentation mention certain biblical citations because of where we're going in this particular matter. The picture you see there on the right-hand side was taken in 2016 in Harlem. All right. That is at Marcus Garvey Park, for those who are familiar with it, off of the area of 125th Street. All right. So again, just want to sit there and point that out, say for reference purposes in that particular case. Let's continue. Danite Publications started officially in 2015 when one was 35 years old. At that time, one was featured on different platforms such as South Showtime and DT4U, that's to say Debate Talk for You, and Maccabees TV. However, having started my own channel in 2014, I was focused on others' platforms until 2018 when I began to write independent Hebrew books. What do I mean by that? Sometimes it's good to collab with others, and sometimes a person needs his or her own me time. So what will I say to people who are interested in becoming an author? Take your me time. Sometimes people speak, yo, you wrote X amount of books, how you do it? I can't get started. Just start writing. A baby begins to walk and falls and then sits there and eventually may become a person running track. Why do we as adults sometimes want to sit there and put a stumbling block before something can manifest? Let's not do that, family, to one another, nor to ourselves, nor to anyone else. All right? Just want to point that out for that in that particular case. So, all right, now, get your music, get your scents, and that's to say whatever you like to burn. Get your food, whatever you like to eat, and get in the spirit once you sit there and start to do your first draft. Now, I tell this to people who shop. When you put things in the cart, you already have an idea of what you want, so you can do the same thing on a piece of paper. You may need to sit there at times, take certain things out the cart that's editing the cart, or the buggy, as they call it in the southern states. You understand? You may need to add certain things to it. So don't let the fact of having to sit there and get information out there to the people, be it poetry, be it a matter of writing history, be it a science book, a food book, a health book. And for the people who subscribe, say, to the scriptures, I want to state this. The prophet Isaiah that you read of didn't write the book Isaiah. Somebody else did. Isaiah chapter 8 tells you that. Jeremiah, the prophet in the Bible, did not write the book of Jeremiah. Somebody else did. When you go to Jeremiah 36, it tells you that. So I say that to state that even in these days and times, you can have something in your name that you verbalize to somebody else and sit there and get it out. Malcolm X did not write his autobiography. It was told to Alex Haley. So I'm stating that to state that there is no reason for you to not to get your information out. The first book, history, is Egypt Talking Writing, which was followed by Deuteronomy 28, History Untold to the Masses, which we'll explain in this presentation. This is followed by From Assyria to America, which has a part 2 to it, explained later on. Finally, there is a book called Israelite History as it relates to the world. Now, when I wrote that book, Israelite History as it relates to the world, that was done in the state of Virginia in a matter of 1 week. Just getting the notes together, already prepared, being in a different part, a quieter environment, and just sitting there and just getting the information and typing it and being, as they say, in the spirit of such. Of course, it needed editing. Of course, the grammar had to be worked on. Of course, the spelling needed to be corrected. But get whatever you have to do to be focused in what you have to do. On Facebook, they periodically talk about this person was great and this person did this. He or she didn't state how come somebody else didn't do it. He or she didn't become into a great state asking how come somebody else didn't do something. He or she took the bull by themselves up by their bootstraps, as the saying goes, and was just about getting the job done. In that case, we do not profess to know everything and open to constructive criticism. The number to reach me at is there. Thank you for that. The books are presented from a collegiate point of view, while at the same time not trying to lose the focus of the youth. While some of the words in the books are harsh, what is deemed as profanity is not supported in the literature. The reader of the book is taken from where each book's point of view is from the beginning of the point to the resolution, because we want to present something with a solution. One will be able to use the material found in the literature for school pages. What am I saying? And speaking about a collegiate matter, that is to say of a college kind of situation. We want to point that out for reference purposes. So you can take that to the bank, as the saying goes, in that particular case. All right, I'm going to ask the host if at this present time I am able to be seen, because I would like to show something. Thank you for that in that manner. All right. If I can be seen, I will sit there on my end, do what I got to do with. I don't know how to sit there and change the screen with that. In that case, all right, I'm changing from that angle. Go here, put on my camera for reference purposes. This book right here is written by my lady. I wanted to show this in what they call real time. It's a poetry book. All right, you can get this online. The name of the book is called Chronicles of a Black Woman's Soul in and Out of Time. As you can see, my copy is a little used, having it already for 3 years. All right, but just wanted to show this for reference purposes. So again, you can either get this online, family, in that particular case, or you can sit there and go on Amazon and get it in that particular case. All right, I just wanted to show that book in real time. Regarding that, none of those poems in here are fake. Some are funny, some are sad, but again, none are fake. So these are things we care to point out in that particular matter. All right, everyone who's bought one had no complaints about it. All right, so let us continue in this. Thank you again for the time. Our competition. While Day Night Publications, which is the name of the website, is not, I want to sit there and change this per se on my end. Thank you for that. All right, and pull this back up. Thank you for that from the current slide, if we will. While Day Night Publications is not based on debate purposes, it is the goal of the company to help set truth back in the earth. Thank you for that, my friend. Therefore, the layers of lies that have been presented are shattered. This is not to say that the company is not above reproach and that we are open to to correction. It is, however, to say that careful and reliable information is what we present. We attempt to bring material that is not commonly known, thus the subtitle, History Untold to the Masses, which you'll see as the presentation goes on. Example is the fact that the Irish in the 17th century spoke of the captives that they had were from the tribe of Judah. Did you know that? We're going to show the references of what we're talking about. Thank you again for that. So we are not combative, but rather objective, and we hope everyone is well and will be better. Let's continue, family, with this. Now, what you're seeing on the right-hand side is people who are in the matter of the 1800s that were captives in a place in South Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's called Boone, B-O-O-N-E County. All right, in that particular case. I was just in the South just last week, and this is not a knock on the South. I'll come out of New York. New York, too, was a slave state until the 1820s. So I never want to present it like North versus South or anything of that kind of sort. Nonetheless, looking at it in this particular case, the South held on to it for as long as they can and encouraged it for as long as they can. To my friends in Texas, when Texas did their state legislative matter, in the 1860s, they stated that slavery, what they called as part of state rights, is one of the reasons why they severed from the Union and joined on to the Confederacy and was in the Civil War. Mississippi and Texas stated that was their reason. So again, this is not to sit there and bring sadness. This is not to sit there and bring problems. This is not to sit there and bring a matter of a spirit of depression, but rather a spirit of knowledge and what to do to change the situation, but not at the same token letting the sad situations be dropped off and forgotten as if it doesn't matter. No, we don't want to do that either. All right. Let us continue. Product overview. The cover you see there was made by Chief Naftali Ben-Dan of the Congregation DCB. You can see them on the internet on the Sabbath, which is said Saturdays. D stands for the Hebrew letter Dalet. C stands for the Hebrew letter Het. And B stands for the Hebrew letter Bet, which means, in this case, Da'at, which is knowledge, Chakma, which is wisdom, and Bina, which is understanding. Let's continue. The book is over 300 pages and has 2 appendixes. The book covers matters of the not detailed translations of the English text, as well as a glossary for Hebrew speakers or seekers. There is a timeline in the book that is second to none, which is in chapter 6 of the book. Now, calling what I wrote second to none is something that somebody else told me about it. Like, this timeline in this book is like second to none. So that's why I stated that in that case. The authors, and when I say authors, I want to emphasize why, covers the timeline or the timing of the Bible, speaks Soma, which is called Shinar in the Bible, in the book of Genesis 10, in the book of Genesis 11, and in the book of Isaiah 11. Suma is referred to as Shinar, to the fall of Persia, which is called Paras in Hebrew, and picks up where the Greco-Roman empires led to the hegemony of the Americans. Now, what am I pointing out in that case when I say the authors? Vincent Hutchinson is what I pen named the book in honor of my dad. May he rest in peace. But for those who do know, I am the author of the book. So I wrote it in the spirit of my dad, but with the hands of my own. So that's why I mentioned that part there when I said authors. All right, let's continue. Thank you for that product overview. This is presented to you all. While it is named from Assyria to America, the content of the book starts in Egypt to America, then picks up from where Assyria comes to power, while all along showing the influence of the nations on the Israelites. Now, this is what point we care to talk about. How did the world empires affect the people of the Bible? Why in the Hebrew scriptures or the Old Testament, you got the Egyptians mentioned, the Sumerians mentioned, the Philistines mentioned, later on the Greeks mentioned, for those into secular history of the Apocrypha, the Romans mentioned. How is it that these peoples that are alien to the people of the scriptures mentioned in it? It shows you a timeline in history. Now, those who may say, oh, okay, well, the Bible cannot be a historical book because there's no dates in it, may not understand that Egyptian timeline, Sumerian timeline, Akkadian timeline, Babylonian timeline, Persian timeline, Assyrian timeline, Mitannian timeline does not have what you call a date to it. REGNAL, regnal dating. That's to say, from the time of the of a particular ruler is when something began to be dated. That's something that we get to point out. So they didn't use the timeline like BCE or the AD. All right. So retinal dating is something you can look up in your own time to sit there and see what that is in that case. Let's continue with the timing allotted. Thank you for that. This book was completed February 1st, 2021 in commemoration of Black History Month, BHM. I put myself on the timeline and just got in a secluded area and just kept on writing. And it was released February 1st in timing of what they call Black History Month in 2021. The genre of the book is to bring out that the history of the Israelites is intertwined with the history of the world. The Israelite tribe of Dan is focused on in this book and where they migrated to. Also, there is a portion of this book that speaks on why in Deuteronomy 28, the Egypt by ships is not what they say it is of the Romans, but rather what happened starting in the 15th century, aka the Atlantic slave trade. There too is a timeline of the captors of the Israelites. That's to say, from the ancient Egyptians all the way down from the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, all the way down to Charles V of Spain in the 16th century. So for those who are interested, those things are available. Okay, let's continue in that manner. Egypt Talking Writing, which was the most difficult book to write. When I say difficult, I'm talking about the references, the paperwork, the timing, the cross references, the digging up of information, the editing of information, and so forth and so on. This one, though it's less than 300 pages, was the most difficult book to write. And this was released essentially in the year 2016 and has been modified since then. All right. The reason was because many were doing what they call, quote, coming for the Israelites, due to the claim that the Exodus in the Bible is a myth by some, and the enslavement of the Israelites is not factual, according to some. It became incumbent to bring this material out. Sources are from cited different references. Many of the citations come from encyclopedias and journals that speak of the authenticity of the biblical account of the Exodus. For those who are interested, you'll see that as this presentation goes on in part. Israelite history as it relates to the world. Now, mind you, all these books that you see are online. This book, covering less than 10 chapters, is more than 50 sources and was put together to show the connection of the Israelites in the world after the fall of the Assyrian Empire, which fell, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, and for those who are interested, Assyria as an empire fell during the reign of Ashur-bani-pal in the 7th century BCE. Then Babylon came up. Not copying the style of the book From Assyria to America, this book has citations from kings to slaves that speak on the reality of the Israelites. So I use what in many cases is referred to as secular sources to sit there and prove, like the Bible says, 2 or 3 witnesses establishes a matter, looking upon it in that manner, in that case. All right. The cover was made by a wife of a brother who I have respect for. They are online by the name Bayis Mazan. So you can look that up and get artwork done, get your information out there as well by those in that particular case. Let's continue. The shorter versions. What do I want to point out in this is I want to show this in real time if I may as well. All right. Thank you for that. In that particular case, all right, we see here this book from Averse, Alabama, the shorter version of what we was talking about before. I know I should hold it in front of my face so it can be seen clearer. Thank you for that. This book here, Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 68, History Untold to the Masses. Again, these books are not to sit there and spread sadness or depression, but rather to sit there and to show a reference point. Did the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, come from the culture Tameri? Tameri is an ancient name for part of Egypt. And what I point out in this is that, no, emphatically not. The scriptures it is not a copy and paste from Egyptian culture like some have stated. And that is what I point out, say, in that particular case. Now, going back, if we will, pulling up the PowerPoint, I wanted to show that again. Thank you in real time. Right? These books there, you see now pricing on the books. New pricing, on the books, $10 forever. The other books, we're going to show the different pricing, but these are the shorter versions of them. So what I did was this. The blue book that you see there is one of the 6 chapters of that. The book in the middle is one of the 15 chapters of that. And the book on the right-hand side is one of the 10 chapters of that. So each of them essentially is over 100 pages, all right? And in that, what I wanted to do in that particular case, well, at least over 70 pages, and the one Ease of Talking Writing that you see right there is 75 pages. The other 2 are both over 100, and it's priced at $10 for those who are interested. It is also a 5x8 as opposed to a 6x9 size for those who are interested in carrying in their purses or inside their bags or so forth and so on, without having the bigger version of it. So just want to point that out in that particular case. So that was, if I may say, presentation regarding the books before we get into the second part. I don't know if the host cares to take a break at this point. If so, let me know, and we can continue on from that point. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah, most definitely. We'll take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go right back into tonight's topic tonight with Vincent, of course. For those who are tuning in, if you have any comments, any questions, feel free to put in the comment section. This is something that I believe that this is on point. This is on time, especially knowing our identity, knowing who we are, where we come from, our lineage, our bloodline, and all other great stuff. So we'll be right back after this commercial break. My name is Furman Jackson Jr. I am excited to be one of the affiliated for the professional networking session brought to you by 3-in-1 Trinity Service. This awesome event will be taking place on Saturday, May 18th, year 2024 at the Bill J. Priest in Dallas. This will be a very impactful event for like-minded entrepreneurs. Come out, network, experience, and most importantly, support the fish contest that's going to be a part of this extraordinary event. I will see you there. Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back here on the Walking This Way's Impact Wars podcast. This is a very special edition tonight. This is a learning episode on here tonight, learning history, learning our history. This is something that's very powerful. This is something insightful, ladies and gentlemen, to help you get on the right track. Because we've been off track for so long, and I'm very thankful to the Most High that's still talking to us to today to get us back on track, knowing our identity, learning who we are. You know, everybody complain about the problem. Now, I believe before us, we have a solution. So, Vincent, go ahead, finish with the presentation. Once again, thank you for all the great information you put out here on tonight.
All righty. Thank you for that. Can I be heard well?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint again, stop my particular camera. I'd like to do that so people can focus on the presentation itself. Again, to my friends and extended family who I shared the link to, whether you listen to it now or later, subscribe to the channel. Walk in His Ways Impact Voice podcast because it helps us to help us, all right, in that particular matter. All right, let me pull this up. Thank you for that. We're going to go here where it says from current slide. Again, taking screenshots is welcomed in this particular case. All right, let's continue. Thank you for that. This book available for $30. Now, see what we were talking about earlier, right? Looking at it from this, the blue book that you see there is a shortened version of that. That's $10. You can still get all of this on Amazon. All right, for those who are interested. All right, understand that everyone, and I respect it, everyone may not want to send it directly to me, be it Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle, because they may not just want to give their address out. But all of this stuff that we're going over is on Amazon. All right, you can also go to the DayandNightPublications.com on the website and go to the drop screen where it says books and order it through that way as well, which will take you to the link on Amazon in that manner. All right, in that particular case, for those who do intend to get directly from me, I do not charge for shipping and handling. This is not trying to sit there and play businessman and dollar bill, but I'd rather you buy 2 books and have no shipping and handling fee, as opposed to buying 1 book and paying shipping and handling. I'd rather you buy a book which will sit there and make the book online be accessible to others in promotion, as opposed to just giving me something for your hard-earned money inside of a donation. So you can have something in your hands so you can see where your hard-earned money is going. And again, I am open again to constructive criticism. Let's continue. Thank you for that. All right. So just want to point that out there in that particular case. As early as 1501, Black people were seen in Haiti as slaves. When Christopher Columbus set sail in 1492, Black people were being imported to Europe at a rate of 1,000 yearly. In 1646, Black people were brought to New Amsterdam, New York. Yes, Black people were sold as slaves in Manhattan. This way you get Wall Street from New York in 1646. 1646 is an area code for Manhattan, for those who do know. The Spaniards brought Blacks to Jamaica early in the 16th century. The slave trade in Jamaica became rife, which means wide, in the middle of the 17th century. That's to say in the 1600s. The English, Spanish, Dutch, Portuguese, French, Danes, and Irish all had a hand in the enslavement of our people. Again, this is not for racist purposes, but for knowledge purposes. The English controlled Jamaica, the Bahamas, Antigua, St. Kitts, Barbuda, Nevis, Montserrat, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, Trinidad, Tobago, and the Virgin Islands. The French controlled Guadeloupe and Martinique. The Spanish controlled Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Santo Domingo. The Dutch controlled St. Martin, St. Eustatius, if I mispronounce anything, correct me. Callao. The Danes controlled St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, which, by the way, is what they call what? America's Caribbean. All right? So I just want to point this out. The captives markets in South America were not closed. The Portuguese controlled Brazil. The Spanish controlled Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Chile, and Argentina. The English controlled Guyana. That's why you might find Guyana being the only former British colony in what they call South America of today. In Central America, the Spanish controlled Mexico, Panama, and Honduras. The French controlled Canada and lower Midwestern part of what is the United States today until they were defeated in the French-American War. That is dated to the matter of 1763 for those who are interested. The Spanish controlled Texas, Florida, because Florida is a Spanish word regarding the word flower, California, Nevada, and New Mexico, what they call New Spain, for those who are interested. And during the era of President Taylor, who was, for those into it, the father-in-law of John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln, during that particular time in the 1840s, is when America eventually wound up getting the area that was then called New Spain. This being decades after what they called the Louisiana Purchase, or the Louisiana matter with Thomas Jefferson, whose slave quarters was in upstate New York. So don't think that slavery was only in the southern part of the United States. All right? Now, again, this is not to spread sadness or nothing of that sort. Most of the Blacks captured and brought to the Western Hemisphere come from Igbo, Ewe, Bafada, Bakondo, Wolof, Bambera, Seer, Ibibio, and Arada peoples. Other highly advanced tribes, such as the Mandinka, Ashanti, which is a branch of the Khan, Fulani, Dahomey, really fell into Europeans' hands. This being the case would mean that the understanding from 12 to 15 million people brought to be enslaved in Americas is a hoax. Now, when I state that, this is no knock on the historian, may he rest in peace, as information comes out as years go on, A. Rogers, who stated 12 to 15 million. In Guyana, in Ghana, there were over 35 slaveholding houses. The fact is that the Ashanti live in Ghana, as do the Fanti people. If most of the captives that were not from the highly advanced tribes, as they were called, and there were over 35 slaveholders where the Ashanti were, would have to mean that the number generally given is incorrect. Do you know that the Portuguese in 1891, according to the book by Susan Everett called what? History of Slavery, destroyed their records in 1891? Do you know that after 1807, 1808, when British law deemed it piracy and illegal to do the international slave trade, they were still doing it? So they had those records destroyed or hidden? So who knows the number? You know, let's continue. This book is available for $20. As you can see, the introduction and what this book has in table of contents. All right, looking at it in that particular case. Jews first, and then by that we mean the people of the scriptures, first settled in the country called Tripoli, but the celebrated Abraham historian Ibn Khaldun asserts that the Mfosi and the ancient tribe of Luata and Libyan of antiquity themselves professed as quote religious Judaism, a fact which had, he asserts, hitherto been unrecorded, by quote Jewish historians. There is an old tradition among the nomadic tribes of Tunisia. Now, let's remember, Tunisia is where the people of Carthage was at, where Hannibal and who went against Rome came from. Let's continue. That the Jews settled in the country before the destruction of the first temple. The destruction of the first temple is recorded in the Bible in 2 Kings chapter 25. That's the temple that Solomon built, Solomon the son of David, so we can see how this connects. There can be little doubt that the colony of Jews, which we speak as Hebrews, existed in Carthage soon after the building of the city. So we're not going to sit there and read all of this with the timing allotted. This can be on the screen. When you watch it later, you can pause it and then sit there and screenshot it. But what we're doing is, what you see this book right here, this what we just read is part of that book. So I wanted to give an intro, a sample of what each book talks about. All right, looking at it from that case, Egypt Talking Writing. Again, that is the hardest book that it took me to write. And my ring finger on my left hand began to really hurt with all that typing. And believe it or not, music carries spirits. You into the Bible, then you know that King David used to play David before he became king, used to play his harp before Samuel, because music, again, does have spirits to it. While typing this book, I'm listening to rap instrumentals such as DMX, may he rest in peace, such as the Rap Grouphonics, and so forth and so on. So when you get into this kind of history with that, it comes with that. It's a little harder, not disrespectful, but a little bit more raw and hard body, for the lack of a better term in that case. For instance, take a look at this here with the timing allotted. Thank you for that. All right, family. With the laser pointer. Israel is not from Isis Ron-El like some people claim. Torah comes from Ma'at question mark. During those particular chapters, it became incumbent to have a certain kind of energy in that particular case. Now, I want to take the time out, all right, if it can be seen with the pen. I want to show it in black ink, if we may. Thank you for that, family. What you're looking at here comes from a museum in the land of Israel today called the Heck Museum. For those into that, that is what they said is a Hebrew captive in ancient Egypt that the book of Exodus talks about. So when they try to say that Hebrews sometimes all you do is just cite the Bible, you don't ever go outside the sources, outside of the scriptures of the Bible itself, that's not the case. We do. So these are things we care to point out for reference purposes. What you're seeing there on the bottom, on the right-hand side, being circled now, is a picture of me and a picture of my lady who wrote the poetry book that we spoke of earlier when we were inside the museum inside of Egypt, all right, back in 2021. So just want to sit there and point that out in that particular case, all right? So let us continue in this. Thank you for that. Again, screenshots are welcome. The Hyksos were called that by the Greeks. They themselves were called Haikushoswet, and they were the rulers, not the original people, regular people of the Asiatics. Thus, we should note the people who were called Hyksos or Haikushoswet, which some say shepherd kings or rulers of foreign lands or rulers of mountainous regions, as some people translate that as, did not call themselves such a term. The people called the Emu, Sitiyu, Retzenu, or Retenu, called Dujahi, etc., did not call themselves such a term. Those are bywords for debate purposes. I want to explain that the term Semitic is also a misnomer. Shem is the Hebrew word them in the Greek transliteration of such. What is the difference between translating and transliterating? For instance, Isaiah in Hebrew is Yeshayahu. Yeshayahu in English is transliterated as Isaiah. But the meaning, the translation of such is Yah, the Most High, is salvation. So we could begin to see that there's a difference between translation and transliteration. All right, just want to point that out. Taking the understanding that sem means mix is not scholarly, and the roots and linguistics of the matter shows it to be the case. All right, so the individual nation of the Asiatics, whether it be the Amalekite, the Hebrew, Israelite, Babylonian, Kassite, Assyrian, or as it is stated in the Anastasia Papyrus, the Edomites, which gets into a whole other subject. Why do I go here in that case? It's not because people need to sit there who believe in the scriptures or the Bible to sit there and need another source, but it's more so for people who don't believe in the Bible and believe in another source to show that the Bible's not a false, not a fallacy, not something that somebody had nothing better to do with their time and just write. So let's continue in this manner. Thank you for that. This book, as you see there, is $30. Now, this is over 400 pages. All righty, looking at it in this particular case, right? What you see here, family, right, from Aversa, Alabama, chapter 2, that goes from page 10 to page 160. So that's 150 pages. The shorter version of that, as we were talking about earlier, right, I want to show in real time, if I may, right, is this book that you see being checked on top here. So this book here is, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, anyone else, that book is online for $10 from Aversa, Alabama. That is chapter 2 of the book we're going to show again here. That being $10 that we just showed, this one, the larger version of it, is $30. So that's what I want to state in that. All right. This book was written in 2020. And I want to, whether they hear it or not, give a shout out when my internet was down. And I would go from my home to the FedEx and let them, or they let me, I must say, use their internet for free for hours on end when my residence was having a problem with internet use. So you got to respect those who respect you. And don't be a taker and not a giver. Give people their flowers verbally and in spirit. They who help you, let's return the love back. Let's continue with this. Thank you for that. Now, with the timing allotted, this person they say here is supposed to be the first permanent slaveholder. In a picture they show is who they trying to say is Anthony Johnson. But here's the problem, because that's not Anthony Johnson in the picture. For those who know it, that's Lewis Hayden. And that's what the book that we just showed point out. Lewis Hayden is shown in there, who lived in the 1800s, but they want to sit there and show him as Anthony Johnson in the 1600s. So the picture itself is a lie in that case. And let's see what else is a lie in that case. Because as we talk about whether Hutchinson, Vincent, whether it's Brown, White, whether whatever names that we sit there and we currently have is showing a sign of colonialism over the course of years. So how did Anthony Johnson, the son of John, Anthony, called by the Portuguese Antonio the Negro in the 17th century, for those who are familiar with the records that were in Virginia, how did he get that name if he's the pioneer of American slavery? Our surnames, as many of us as Black people, shows that you can kind of trace what state or what county one was enslaved in. In certain cases, you can do that. So there's no way that a Black man named Anthony Johnson is the pioneer of it, because we got to ask, how did he get that name? But let's continue in this. William, a Dutchman, 1625, received a license to trade slaves in Brazil, Virginia, and New Guinea. Now let's look at that, because we're not going to read it all, but we're going to pull it all up, and you can take the screenshots for those who are interested. We just want to focus real quick with the timing allotted, right? Looking at it here, let's highlight, if we will. 1625, which is before the matter of 1654 shown in the meme. Someone had a license to trade in Brazil and New Guinea. New Guinea is in West Africa. Did you know that the Dutch used to sit there and kidnap Portuguese slave ships and then have them resold? What made the Dutch men of war in Jamestown, Virginia, comfortable to sell 20-odd Negroes to somebody in 1619? He was comfortable doing it because they was already trading our ancestors in slavery. That's what made the Dutch men of war comfortable to even go ahead and do it in the first place. So when we look at this here, in this particular case, we want to point out that no, not that there were not foul Black people enslaving Black people, not trying to be sad. One of the harshest and saddest things I read when studying this stuff in this matter is that Black women were raped by the slave master and by Black male slaves. That was one of the saddest things I read when I came across this kind of information, and it stuck in my head. But again, this is not to make anyone sad or depressed. We just want to point this out. History is not always nice, but we can change the future by having a better history left on record. Not that we can't change the past, no, but the present can change the future. This is what we want to point out in that particular case. All right, let's continue in this. Thank you for that. Again, with the timing allotted, not going to read it all, but definitely just want to sit there and point it out there. You can sit there and screenshot it for your edification purposes. Thank you for that, family, in that case. This book is $20. From Assyria to America, Part 2. Now, I want to point something out in this. This chapter here, from Angola to Arkansas, right? In that, I talk about the slave trade that happened. I mentioned a book that me and a host talked about earlier called From Babylon to Timbuktu. Angola to Arkansas. You know, Arkansas was a slave state, right? But I talk about that in here, about how indigenous people, or who was called Native Americans, and Black people mixed with, say, one another in that case. I mentioned that in that particular case. All right, and name certain tribes and show maps and so forth, and how indigenous people looked at a certain case. So let's look at that, right, in that case there, and let's see something. You see how this goes here saying, I want to erase for neatness purposes, from Ghana to Georgia, from Dahomey to Delaware, from Nigeria to Niagara, Niagara being in New York, from Madagascar to Manhattan. And then when we go here, family, right, this goes from Angola to Arkansas. I want to state, I forgot to put that part in that other book. So when I wrote Part 2, I put it in this book. All right, when it was published, and I was like, oh, wow, I actually forgot to put a chapter in it. I decided in making a Part 2 to put that chapter in this one right here. Just want to point that out in that case. Again, how can I ask someone to write a book or try to encourage someone? Because we should all get books out. This is my opinion on this. Get your music that you like. Get the food that you like. Get the incense or whatever you like. Get the environment and the situation that you like, and then just begin to write. And don't think that you can't do it because your first draft won't be what people see. That's why they have Grammarly. That's why they have spell check. That's why when you publish a book, by the way, sometimes the pixel on the pictures, if the publishing company doesn't think that is good enough, they will reject it until you get the same picture with a different kind of pixel. They generally try to say 1,000 and better, so that way it can be clearer when the printing comes out and so forth. So I state all of that to state there's help for those who are interested in this. You can sit there and get your book done on anything you want. History, science, philosophy. Amazon, correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing that they would reject, and understandably so, is the fool who tries to promote sinful acts such as pedophilia. That they're not going to sit there and push and promote. So that's something we can give Amazon credit for in that particular case. All right, so let's continue in this here as we close out. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia shall they bring my suppliance, even a daughter my dispersed as my offering. The Israelites will know that as being a part of the people dispersed throughout Africa. Citing Joseph Williams again, Hebrewisms of West Africa, we see John Oldby state many Jews were scattered over this region. Some natives boasting themselves of Abraham's seed, Abraham being the father of Isaac, the father of Israel, inhabiting both sides of the river Niger. Others are alien strangers who fled thither from the destruction of Jerusalem by Vespasian or from Judea, wasted and depopulated by the Romans, Persians, Saracens, and Christians, or else as came out of Europe whence they were banished. This is from a historical citation. Where were the people who were in the biblical land of Israel, which was formerly called the land of Canaan, from the 15th century BCE, 1450, round off, to 70 AD, or to 135 AD, what they call the Battle of Bar Kokhba, with the Romans, Hadrian, and who they refer to as Rabbi Akiba in history. Who were the people that was there from the timing of Joshua that you see in the Bible, all the way to the timing of Bar Kokhba during the timing of the Romans? That is what these books here talk about in that manner. Thank you. 908-587-4841. And the information again, my email and the website, darenightpublications.com, is there for those who are interested. So that concludes this presentation. Thank you for that. I hope people learn from it. I am open again to constructive criticism in this particular case. All right. I know I was on the time frame. I definitely, again, do respect the host. It definitely is an honor. I don't know if everyone agrees or disagrees with what's presented. And again, I'm open to constructive criticism in that particular manner. So without any further ado, I'm going to relinquish the mic. Thank you for that in that particular case. Thanks.
Man, that was awesome stuff. Thank you, Vince, for sharing this great information that was on here tonight. Like, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get ready to get off this thing. Hope everything that was said tonight was benefiting. This is something that is an ongoing thing. This is something that we should apply on a regular basis, of course, when it comes to the history, the understanding, and actuality. Great information. This is great information. This is uplifting information, in my own opinion. Vincent, go ahead and plug in your social media information. How can individuals follow you, and how can they really, most important, get all this great information that the Most High allow you to put out here in the universe? Vince, you there?
Yeah, sorry about that. I just posted in my number.
Okay.
908-587-4841. And again, all of the books that we showed are all on Amazon. All of them are all on Amazon. So if you go in and type in by author name, or if you go to the website, you can sit there and see that come up in that particular case. All right. For those, I didn't tell the host I was going to do this, but I asked, and I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries. The flyer that you've been seeing me pushing and promote that you see in the background, he did that. Contact this man if you want to get your flyers and things done. I'm going to. And so just looking at it in that particular case, we need to be our best supporters. We have. When we start talking and closing out Black Wall Street, what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood. Did you know after the destruction of Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, that by the 1940s, it was back up in operation?
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, we focus because we've been taught to focus, and it's not to say that we shouldn't focus on its destruction in 1921, but by the 1940s, it was back where it was. Now, what you see there posted, Vincent Hutchinson, that right there is the author name. So if you go on Amazon and type that in, you will see the books come up in that particular case. The people who's operating Black Wall Street and so forth and so on, they didn't say how come someone else didn't do it. Home Pride Bread doesn't say they're not going to do something because Strawman Bread did it. I was down south recently. I went to Walmart. I went to Food Lion. For those familiar with those particular stores down there, Walmart could care less what Food Lion does and vice versa. So I'm saying be, as the Bible would say, if you are wise in Proverbs 9, if you're wise for yourself. If you scorn, you alone shall bear it. So don't not do something because somebody else is doing it. Don't say, I don't want to get a podcast because somebody else. I'm not going to write something because somebody else. Why reinvent the wheel? Because the Most High is giving you that spirit. So do that. So without taking up too much more time, thank you again for the time. And it's appreciated. Have a good evening. Good night.
I appreciate you, Vince, as well. Also, great information, ladies and gentlemen. A big shout out to my sister in the comment section that, yes, he does a good with flyers. Thank you for the support. Thank you, Vince, and also for the support as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back here tomorrow night, same time here on the Walking This Way Impact Voice podcast. Tonight was different. Tonight was extraordinary. Like I said, we just elevating ourselves. We're just going up from here. So, about to shut this thing down for the night because I'm going to hit the gym early in the morning. So I got to go ahead and get my rest, of course. And I will be back here, like I said, tomorrow night here on the Walking His Ways Impact Voice podcast. Signing off, ladies and gentlemen. So, man, y'all have a great night. Man, reach your goals, reach your dreams. Do the things you want to do in life, what you want to accomplish. This is your time. It's time to move now. That's all I'm going to stay on that. But I thank everybody for support. Follow Vincent on all his social media platforms. Support his books as well. It's good to see the men standing up, doing something positive in the world. We see so much negativity in our social media, in our communities, wherever you go. But it's good to see men and women, but the men especially, in a positive light. So like I said, man, we better leave this thing, and y'all have a great night, and I will see y'all tomorrow here on Walking This Way Impact Voice Podcast. Peace, everybody.